You mortgaged the house? My voice trembled as I stared at the papers in my hands, disbelief washing over me. Mark, please tell me this isn't true. He didn't respond. Instead, he sat there on the couch, hunched over, his face buried in his hands. The silence between us felt thick, suffocating, as if the weight of his secret was pressing down on both of us. I couldn't move, my hands clenched around the papers, my heart pounding in my chest. The words on the page were clear, unforgiving. Line holder First Capital Mortgage, outstanding balance, $200,000. I am Karen Bennett, I'm 42 years old, I'm a nurse and a mother to two wonderful children, Mia and Dylan, who are 10 and 13. For most of my life, I've been the one people rely on. I get up early every day, juggling everything, getting the kids to school, working long hours at the hospital, and somehow keeping the house running. Mark and I have been married for 15 years, we've had our ups and downs, like any couple, but I always thought we were in this together. I trusted him, he handled the big things, taxes, insurance, and I took care of the day-to-day. It was a system that worked, at least, I thought it did. Everything changed when I found the letter. I had been cleaning the kitchen one night, grumbling about the piles of paperwork Mark had let accumulate, when I came across an envelope that stood out. It was from First Capital Mortgage. My stomach turned as I tore it open. The letter didn't waste any time. Our home, the house we'd worked so hard for, was now collateral on a loan I didn't know existed. I tried to convince myself it was a mistake. There had to be some mistake, but as I read through the details, the truth hit me like a cold slap. There was no mistake. Mark had done this, and he hadn't said a word. I didn't wait. I went straight to him, holding the papers, demanding answers. How could you do this, Mark? How could you put our home, our children's future, at risk? He didn't even look up. Instead, he sat there, shoulders hunched, like he was trying to disappear. It's not what you think, he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. Then explain it to me, I snapped, my frustration turning to anger. Because right now, it looks like you mortgaged our house without telling me. Do you even care what this means? He sighed deeply, rubbing his face with his hands. I didn't have a choice, Karen. I was in a tight spot. A tight spot? I stared at him, feeling a coldness settle in my chest. A tight spot? I repeated, barely able to keep my voice steady. What kind of tight spot could possibly justify this? There was a long pause, and then it hit me. The late nights, the excuses about why he couldn't make it to the kids' events, the pieces started to fall into place. It's the gambling, isn't it, Mark? I whispered. Silence. That was all the confirmation I needed. Years ago, when Dylan was just a baby, Mark had gotten caught up in betting on basketball games, running up our credit card bills. He swore it would never happen again, and I believed him, because when you love someone, you trust them, even when you shouldn't. But this was different. This was our home. This was our life. How much? I asked, my voice cold. Karen, he started. How much, Mark? I demanded. About $100,000, he admitted, his eyes glued to the floor. I thought I could pay it back before it got this far. I just needed more time. $100,000? The words barely registered in my mind. How could you do this? I whispered, tears threatening to spill. What happens to Mia and Dylan if we lose the house, Mark? He reached for me, but I stepped back, shaking my head. I didn't mean for it to get this bad, he said. I swear, I'm going to fix it. But I didn't believe him, not this time. That night, as Mark slept on the couch, I stayed awake, my mind racing. I couldn't stop thinking about the kids, about how I was supposed to protect them from this mess. The trust one had placed in Mark, the faith that had kept us together. It all felt like it had been shattered in an instant. By the time the first light of dawn peeked through the curtains, I made up my mind. I couldn't wait for Mark to fix this. I had to take control, for my sake, for the kids. The days that followed were a blur. Mark and I barely spoke, our conversations limited to the kids or chores. The distance between us felt so wide that I wasn't sure we could ever bridge it. The kids didn't seem to notice anything at first. Dylan was focused on his science project, and Mia was practicing for an upcoming soccer tournament, but I could see the change in them, the confusion, the uncertainty in their eyes. They didn't know exactly what was wrong, but they could feel it. Mark, who used to be the fun, carefree parent, was now distant. He didn't join in on the kids' games or spend time with them like he used to. I could see Mia's hesitation when she asked him to play soccer with her. and Dylan's silence when he used to beg for video game time. One evening, after the kids were in bed, I couldn't hold it in anymore. "We can't keep doing this, Mark," I said, my voice tight. "The mortgage, the debts, the gambling, you need help." He sighed, rubbing his eyes. "I told you, Karen, I'm handling it." "No," I snapped, slamming the dish towel down on the counter. "You're not handling it. If you were, we wouldn't be on the brink of losing our home." His face hardened, his jaw clenched. "What do you want me to do? Quit my job? Sell my car? I'm doing the best I can." "Your best isn't enough," I shouted, my voice shaking with frustration. "You've put all of us at risk. Me, the kids, do you even care?" The silence that followed was suffocating. He turned away, his fists clenched at his sides, and walked out of the room, leaving me standing there, alone with my thoughts. The next day, I called Sarah. "Come over," she said, her voice urgent. Now. Her apartment was quiet and calm, everything I needed in that moment. I sank into the couch, feeling the weight of everything pressing down on me. "Okay," Sarah said, handing me a cup of tea, "tell me everything." And I did. I told her everything, about the mortgage, the debts, the gambling, the late nights, the broken trust. When I finished, Sarah stared at me in shock, her face hard with anger. "That idiot," she muttered, shaking her head. "Karen, you can't let him drag you down. You need to protect yourself and the kids." "How?" I asked, my voice breaking. "I don't know where to start. I feel like I'm drowning." She leaned forward, her face softening. "First things first, you need a lawyer, someone who can help you understand your options. I know someone, Jennifer Morales. She's great. I'll give you her number." I was going through the pile of documents for what felt like the 100th time when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Mark. "We need to talk. I can fix this, but you have to stop working with the lawyer. You're making things worse." I stared at the screen, my chest tightening. Worse? He was the one who had messed everything up, gambling away our future, and now he was blaming me for trying to clean up his mess. My hands shook as I placed the phone face down on Jennifer's desk. "He's trying to manipulate you," Jennifer said, her voice steady, eyes sharp. "Don't let him. We're close to resolving this." Resolving it, that word sounded easy, but the road to get here had been anything but. Jennifer had uncovered that Mark had secretly taken out 2 huge loans against the house, without telling me. Each loan had higher interest rates than the last, totaling over $240,000. The shock of it made my stomach churn, but Jennifer assured me we could find a way forward. "You have 2 choices," Jennifer had said last time. "You can try to save the house by restructuring the loans, but that would require Mark's cooperation, and that's risky. Or you can fight for full financial control, which might mean selling the house and starting over." The idea of selling the house, the kids' home, was almost too painful to think about, but the thought of staying tied to Mark's mess was even worse. A week later, we were sitting across from each other in a small, sterile room at the mediator's office. The tension was suffocating, the silence heavy with accusations neither of us was ready to speak out loud. Jennifer sat next to me, calm but fierce, while Mark had brought his own lawyer, someone who looked as slick and untrustworthy as Mark's excuses. "This doesn't have to get ugly," Mark said, leaning forward in his chair. "We can work this out if you just stop trying to tear everything apart." "Tear everything apart?" I repeated, my voice trembling with disbelief. "You're the one who put us here, Mark. You lied to me, gambled away our savings, mortgaged the house without telling me, and now you want me to just forget it?" "I made a mistake," he said, sounding defensive, "but I can fix it if we just—" "No," I interrupted, my voice firm. "You can't fix this, not this time. I've spent too much of my life cleaning up your mess, Mark. I'm done." His lawyer shuffled through papers, clearing his throat before speaking. "If I may," he started, "we believe Mr. Bennett still has a right to remain on the mortgage, given his financial contributions." "Contributions?" Jennifer cut in, her voice sharp. "Let's be clear here. Mr. Bennett's contributions are the reason we're in this mess. My client has evidence showing he took out loans without her permission, violated their financial agreement, and put their children's home at risk. If we're talking about rights, Mrs. Bennett has every right to protect herself and her children from further harm." Mark's lawyer went quiet, his face pale, while Mark's anger flared up. "This is ridiculous," he muttered, shaking his head. "You're blowing this out of proportion." I took a deep breath. gathering the strength to meet his gaze. "No, Mark," I said, my voice steady. "What's ridiculous is what you've done to this family. You've lied, ruined our future, and refused to take responsibility. But I'm not going to let you drag me down with you anymore. I'm taking control of my life, and the kids' lives, whether you like it or not." The mediator tried to redirect the conversation, suggesting practical solutions. In the end, it came down to one thing: the house. Mark insisted on keeping it, claiming it was for the kids, but I knew the truth. He wanted the house because it represented control, and giving it to him meant staying tied to him, to his debts, and to the chaos he'd created. "I'm willing to sell the house," I said, my voice calm, despite the ache in my chest. "It's the only way to move forward." Mark stared at me, shocked and furious. "You're seriously going to sell the house, the kids' home, after everything?" "Yes," I replied, "because the house doesn't matter. What matters is their future, and I won't let you risk that any longer." The rest of the session blurred by, filled with paperwork and legal jargon, but when we left, the weight on my chest felt lighter. For the first time in years, I wasn't cleaning up after Mark's mistakes, I was building a future that didn't depend on him. It wasn't a grand victory, no applause or fanfare, but it was mine. I had secured control of our finances, negotiated the sale of the house to pay off the debts, and set up a trust for the kids. It wasn't the ending I had dreamed of, but it was a new beginning. And that was something I could be grateful for. The first night in the new apartment was bittersweet. The kids were in their smaller rooms, but they were cozy, the boxes still piled up, making the place feel temporary. I sat on the couch, sipping tea, gazing out the window at the city lights. It wasn't home yet, but it was a fresh start, and that's what we needed. I was relieved the house, and the debt, were behind me, but the exhaustion from weeks of battles, tense talks, and tough decisions lingered. My chest was lighter, but my heart still ached. Losing the house where we had so many memories wasn't easy, but I reminded myself that home wasn't just a place, it was the love and stability I could give Mia and Dylan. The next morning, Mark called. His name flashed on my phone like an unwanted reminder. I debated ignoring it, but I knew I couldn't avoid him forever. "Karen," he said, his voice unusually soft, "I just wanted to check in, see how you and the kids are doing." "We're fine," I said, keeping it neutral, settling in. There was a long pause. "I know I messed up," he said. "I've been thinking a lot about everything, and I want to make it right. I want us to try again." His words hit me like a punch. For a moment, I felt the pull of old habits, the part of me that always tried to fix things, to smooth over the cracks. But then I thought about the mortgage, the lies, the mess he'd created. I thought about the tears, the strength it had taken to move forward. "I can't do that, Mark," I said, steady. "Not this time." "Karen, please," he said, desperation in his voice. "I can change." "Then change," I replied, "but I'm not waiting for you anymore." I ended the call, my hand trembling as I set the phone down. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. Mark's words no longer had the power they once did. I wasn't his fixer anymore, I was my own person. Later that evening, as I tucked Mia and Dylan into bed, I felt a deep sense of gratitude. The apartment wasn't perfect, but it was ours. Mia had taped a drawing of a rainbow to her wall, and Dylan had started stacking his books in his corner. They were adjusting, little by little. And so was I.